All right, family. We're on our way back to the Cajun State. It's cold, it's wet, but according to the weather overlay, we should be at least getting a little dry by the time we get to Houston. All right, what's up, family? Fair weather rider. We started off this mission at 0:30. Now we're on our first stop. We're back to the Cajun State. I was thinking about taking out some of these layers, but it's dry, but it's still cold. I'm gonna leave this on, y'all. We're going in here, use this bathroom, get some gas, and get ready for this next leg of our journey. We're gonna go to another travel stop. We go back here and make it happen, y'all. Fair weather rider, I'll be back. All right, family, we're about to get back on this road. We're making great time. All right, everybody said they want to roll. So that's what we're about to do. stop number 2 at this Buc-ee's. Get some gas. We're on our way back to Alexandria. I don't know, maybe it's me, but it seems like that when we're headed home, we always tend to move out a little faster. Everyone seems to stay a little tighter in the formation, and we definitely roll a little faster than we normally do when we're heading to our destination. But it's all good. As I said, I'm gonna see how long these guys want to actually stay at this Buc-ee's. Yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna start to remove layers yet. But it's definitely a little chilly out here. All right, let me get some gas. I'll check back in later. We just stopped at Buc-ee's. Mad Dog's gotten hungry, so now we're gonna head to Denny's. We can't be at this place too long, because everybody else is eager to get to the house. But since Mad Dog is an elder, if he makes a request, we're gonna try to comply with it. And this time he's requested to go to Dennis. All right, family. Just got through getting us some Waffle House. Now we're about to get back on this road. We got one more stop before we get to Alexandria. Gonna try to make it about 125, maybe 130 miles before we stop. Yeah, I think my rear brakes are gone, family. That noise they're making. I have no idea why I like getting video of me going over this bridge. But I am intrigued about just how high this bridge is. There must have been some pretty large vessels that were required to go under this bridge in order for them to make it so tall. This bridge is higher than those buildings over there. You almost wonder how people in those truck You almost wonder how people who's riding passenger in one of them 18-wheelers who can actually see over the side of the bridge, how do they feel about riding across that bridge for the first time? For someone in there who's afraid of heights, and you're going to get a show. That's a tall bridge, family. For sure. All right, we're going to get back to the regularly scheduled program as we make our way into Alexandria. As I said, we got one more stop we're going to make. And once we get to this stop, we're going to decide at what point are we going to separate. My guess is that we're going to separate at the point where we started, and that would be at the Exxon in Alexandria. You were there when we left, so you know what Exxon I'm talking about. If not, go back and look at the video before this one, part 1. All right, I'll check back in once we make our final stop. But now, let's get it. All right, family, we're on our way to this last stop. We're going to hit this Loves. I'm willing to bet you that everyone in the formation has used the bathroom right now. I know I do. But since we've already stopped to eat, I'm just going to assume that this is going to be a short stop where we all get gas, use the bathroom, and then get back on this road. Hey family, we're gonna make this right here the last stop that we make before we get to our destination. Our destination is gonna be where we started. That's where we're gonna split. Let's just get this gas, and then we'll talk a little more once we get back on the road. We're in the Cajun State. Now we got to get to Alexandria. We got about 80 miles to get there. We have about 6 miles before we get off of I-10 and hit 165. And once we hit 165 will take us all the way into Alexandria. I'm working hard, family, not to be as aggressive when I'm getting on these highways. But it's kind of difficult to make sure that I'm moving fast enough to merge with the traffic. We might well stay in that lane over there because we're about to get on the highway at the next exit. Got Oberlin coming up. One of the chapter members who rides a trike
who goes by the name of Hound Dog, lives in Oberlin. Hound Dog started off with us last year when we went to North Carolina. He made it all the way to Alabama, or just about to the Alabama border. And the electrical system on the trike started to heat up a little bit. So he had to bail out of the ride, call his big brother, and have his brother come pick him up and tow him back to the Cajun State. So I'm going to encourage him to come on out and join us for at least a couple of rides this year, so he can get his 1,500 miles. If the equipment on my helmet was working properly, I will call Hound Dog to let him know we're about to pass through his way and see if he wants to meet somewhere. But I know these soldiers are ready to get home, so I'm going to get him there as quickly as possible. And that means by being as safe as possible, obeying the speed limit as much as possible. Because I told you all before that in some of these small cities in the Cajun State, you can get got. And I don't want anyone in this group to get got. And I think if one of us get got, we're all going to get got. Is I believe that that bridge is the highest bridge in this city, and you will have to leave the city to go to some of the bigger cities throughout Louisiana to find some bridges that are higher. I believe there are a couple of bridges in Shreveport that are a lot higher than those. There are definitely some in New Orleans that are higher. I lived in Baton Rouge for about 3.5 years, but I don't recall seeing any bridges that high in Baton Rouge. But I haven't lived there in a couple of decades. So you never know what they've built since then. There might actually be a bridge or two that's higher, or at least high. There might be a couple of bridges that are higher or at least as high as that one.
All right, family. Fairweather Rider concluding another successful mission. For this one, I hooked up with some Buffalo soldiers. K-Free the president, Mad Dog the treasurer, Easy Rider the business development coordinator, and me, the Fairweather Rider. Took about a 450-mile ride to San Antonio, Texas. And while we were in San Antonio, Texas, we rode around with some of the soldiers there. Probably put about another 50 miles in. And then today we rode back to Alexandria, about another 440 to 450 miles. So in total, just put in 962 miles. The next time you'll see us riding together is going to be when we go to Black Wall Street. It is going to be an event, a combined event. I told you guys before that there are 5 frontiers in the National Association of Buffalo Soldiers and Troopers Motorcycle Club, and each year there is an event held by each of the 5 frontiers. This year is going to be a combined event with 2 frontiers, the Central Frontier and the Southeastern Frontier. Going to get together and meet in Tulsa, Oklahoma, conduct a little business, get out and ride a little bit, maybe meet some of the community, go out and check out some of the bikes. And you know, they're probably going to visit the local Harley Davidson dealership. There's probably going to be a Harley Davidson, hopefully an Indian demo rides that's going to be available at Black Wall Street. I know they were last year. For now, this is the Fairweather Rider. Remember, if there's blue in the sky, that means it's time to ride. throw a leg over that bike you have, and get out there and put some miles on it today. We started this in the rain, and now the sun is shining and the sky is blue. Get out there and ride. This is the Fair Weather Rider, and you know, 2 fingers means peace, and I'm out. But I will be back.